Hey, shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Wow.
Hi, Rob Tawab La'atam, which is good evening unto you all. Nakna Wahai Baruch Sha'ala with the Hebrew Israelites, coming to you week in and week out through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, to preach these so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, and Israelite foreigners. Nachamatam, Kaya, Hamalakwat Hashamayim, Kwara, repent ye for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. First and foremost, before we get started, I'm going to say, Call Halayim La, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Kahakodash. While double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that taught us the truth and the rule well. And much respect to you bros out there pushing this truth with all righteousness and sincerity. Shalom, shalom.
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 So, last week we were blessed to go into the topic of the 12 tribes. We touched on, I believe it was Reuben, and today we're going to go to the head tribe, which is Judah. You so-called Negroes. So we can start with Genesis chapter 49 and verse 1, Baba Kusha.
Khan. This is the book of Genesis 49 and verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Right, because pretty much when we read into this chapter, both Genesis 49 and then also Deuteronomy, the 33rd chapter, it gives specific traits and details about each tribe, you see. So we're going to go down to Genesis 49 and verse 8, and it's going to tell us about the specific prophecies about the tribe of Judah, which will be the so-called Negroes.
This is Genesis 49 and verse 8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee.
Right, and it says Judah. That's where you get the term Jew. It's actually short for the Ju, but really when you read it, Bahalashwan Kwadash in the Holy Tongue, it will be Yahawadah, which means Yahweh thanks, you know. And then
Khan.
also it goes into, it says, Thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. The scriptures say that our Lord sprang out of Judah, which we'll get that, Lord's willing. You see, but our Lord Yahweh Shai sprang out of Judah. You see, so it says, Thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Yahweh Shai is to be praised, contrary to, different groups' beliefs. So it says, Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Could we get, I believe it's Psalms 110, or could we get Psalms the second chapter? Baba
Khan.
Kusha?
You want
Psalms
the
2.
2 and 1?
I believe it's like down in the latter parts.
Verse 8.
Yeah, verse 8. Yep.
Khan.
Psalms chapter 2, verse 8. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, and the uttermost part of the earth for thy possession.
Right, because pretty much, our Lord Yahweh Shai is going to have, these heathen in subjection. The scriptures say that pretty much he's going to rule with the rod of iron, you see, and we're going to be, joint heirs with our Lord Yahweh Shai, you see, but ultimately that rod of iron goes into essentially the strictness and rulership, and righteousness. It's not going to be how, Esau did, where he, breaking and, doing a whole bunch of wickedness. It's going to be a rulership. It's going to be a rulership in righteousness, so where it says, going back to Genesis, the 49th chapter, and the 8th verse in the latter says, Thine hand shall be in the neck of thine enemy. So again, it goes into that very stringent rulership and righteousness.
Right. And if I could also add, because this is one of the things that, this world fears is the so-called black man, all right, because the tribe of Judah, that's you so-called American Negroes, all right, and the world fears, all right, a world being ruled by so-called blacks, all right. That's why your history was erased and going into this kingdom that we're in now, which is Babylon the Great, America. All right, they hid your history from you because when you go into ancient history, so-called blacks, along with the other tribes, but mainly start just dealing with Judah, all right, have done a lot of great things in the earth. So where it says, I ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thy inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. All right, these heathen refuse to accept the fact that, number one, that so-called blacks ruled a time before, and also refuse to accept the future where they're going to be ruled over by so-called black Latinos and Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Baba Kashak, could we go back to Genesis 49? Because we had mentioned the point that, Judah is a so-called Negro. So I just wanted to provide some edification just, on that.
Con, you want me to reread verse 8?
Yeah, you read that.
Con, this is Genesis 49 and 8. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee.
Right. And pretty much, Judah is that head tribe, and again, Judah is the so-called Negroes. And just, again, to add some edification on that, could we get, Deuteronomy 33 and verse 7?
This is Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 7. And this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. Let his hands be sufficient for him, and be thou in help to him from his enemies.
Right. And when you see, Judites, a lot of Judites are blessed with very good hands. The Lord Yahawadah was a carpenter. His father in the flesh, Joseph, was a carpenter as well. But Judah is blessed with good hands. But then it says, and this is the blessing of Judah. And he said, Hear, Lord, the voice of Judah, and bring him unto his people. So from there, could we get Isaiah 22 and verse 17? Because it said, Bring him unto his people. Because what we got to think about is, the Northern Kingdom was already over here, you see. So let's talk about the time period of slavery, you know.
Mm-hmm. This is Isaiah 22 and verse 17. Behold, Yahweh will carry thee away with a mighty captivity, and will securely cover thee. Oh,
Right.
Salaki, will surely cover thee.
Right, and surely covered thee. It says carried thee away with the mighty captivity. Going back to Deuteronomy 33 and 7, it said, and bring him unto his people. Judah was brought unto the rest of the people, all right, being in the rest of the nation, all right, through slavery. That's why scriptures like I'm gonna get it real fast. Jeremiah, we can stay right here, but Jeremiah 50 and verse 33, and it says Jeremiah 50 and 33 says, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast, and they refused to let them go. That was here in America, Babylon the Great. But ultimately, going back into this precept and then tying it into Deuteronomy 33 and 7, it says, Behold, the Lord will carry thee away with a mighty captivity, and will surely cover thee. He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. America was that large country. Then it says he will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball. That's essentially how it was for Jake on those ships. And I believe we got the article right for the for Wida.
Con, Con.
Con.
Want me to pull it up?
Yeah, let me finish this first. It
Con.
says, he will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country. There shalt thou die, and there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of the Lord's house. So essentially the point I wanted to grab was, Judah was brought over to the Americas, for servitude, for that mighty captivity mentioned in Isaiah the 22nd chapter in the 17th verse, and then tying that into Deuteronomy 33 and 7, bring him unto his people. And this is an example of those ships.
Yeah, if I can jump in there real quick too, because going back to what you read in Jeremiah 50, just so we can make that clear as far as dealing with it said the house of Israel and the house of Judah, understanding that when you see sometimes dealing with the house of Judah, that's dealing with the southern kingdom, and the house of Israel being the northern kingdom. So the house of Judah dealing with you so-called Negro, West Indians, and Jamaicans, Haitians.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the house of Judah, and then the northern kingdom being the Latino and Native American tribes. So, like you said, we were both brought over here in slavery here in America. And a lot of the stuff that you see dealing with the slave movies, like, just listing off a bunch, like, 12 Years a Slave, Mandingo, Goodbye Uncle Tom, and these different movies, they showcase that this happened. They show mainly unto the Southern Kingdom, you so-called Negroes, but you other Northern Kingdoms were put into slavery as well. So, as the brother got on the screen dealing with the slave boat, this was part of the curses. So one of the main reasons how we know that the so-called Negro are the house of or the tribe of Judah, because these prophecies in the curses deal with what happened to the so-called Negro. So all you African niggas, you Muslims, None of y'all, through y'all different doctrines, can explain why the so-called blacks were brought over here in slavery. But according to the curses that befell us, according to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, we can go into the scriptures and give you the reason why we ended up on these slave ships. And I had two real quick before we go into this. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse. Just go right to the main point. Um, I just lost it. Slocky. The part about the yoke of iron. I just had it on the screen. I should have lost it.
Talking about when
Deuteronomy
Flaki,
28 and 48. It says, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And this is just adding to what the brother Yawam was going into earlier, because this is exactly what happened to the so-called blacks. All right. And you were put on those slave boats. Okay, you were brought over here to America. You were stripped of everything, even down to your nationality. Okay, because as you watch that movie Roots, and you see how pretty much Kunta Kinte, all right, had his whole nationality stripped from him. It was beat out of him to the point to where he had to call himself Toby. All right. And you saw when they was getting gathered up on those boats that what happened? They were put in yokes of iron. And when you go on Google, you can literally type in yokes of iron. Now you have to do a little bit more digging now because Esau had been, taking pictures down and whatnot. But nobody can deny that when you read about he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck, that didn't happen to no other nation but the Israelites, specifically dealing with Judah. Yep, the water, bro. This shows you that this happened to the so-called blacks. So when you wondering why did we go into slavery, this is why. Because if you go down some more, actually I'm gonna go up some more. Back to verse 45, Deuteronomy 28 and 45. It says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. And when you read this whole chapter, this pretty much details all the things that happened to the so-called Negro, but then the parallels in it show that the so-called Northern Kingdom and the North American tribe and the so-called Mexican tribes, they deal with the same things, but we're just highlighting the Southern Kingdom, the so-called blacks right now. But y'all got it, and I'll continue on after you go into what you was gonna go into.
Okay. You was gonna pull up the article?
Gone. I'll pull it up.
Oh, one more before you get that. So if you put the votes back on the screen, just to further bring that point home. Deuteronomy 28 and 68, the point. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, going back to what your one read in Jeremiah 50. All right. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, the obvious answer to how Negroes got brought over here to America was on slave ships. Number one being the first one, the good ship Jesus. Okay,
Hey, that's a spirit.
You had that?
Yeah, I was pulling it up.
That's the spirit, man. The good ship Jesus was the slave boat that brought you niggas over here, man. All right, but you forget that. And it says how you will be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. All right, and that's those auction blocks that you see, in these slave movies, man. Which we can touch on Joel 3, if need be. But this just shows you that your history is written in these scriptures, man. So it says we got brought into Egypt again, not at the actual land of Egypt, because when you look at the world map, all right, it doesn't take a boat to get to Egypt from where we was. All right. So the land Egypt is talking about here in America, because Egypt is just another name for bondage. But y'all got it.
We could touch on the article. You see it had Weta in there?
Yeah, I'm gonna get it right now. Let me see.
Okay.
Right here.
Yep, it says Weta, which sometimes you might see. Yeah, right there. It says OUID. OUIDAH, which that's the French. That's the French way to say Weta, but but it says also known as Weta, which when you look at it, this area is ultimately in the western part of Africa, so
Mm-hmm.
that really goes into Judah. You see it inside the phonetic, and you can see it in how it's made up. Pretty much the DAH part that goes back to Yahawadah. The Da part, goes back again to Yahawadah. Then sometimes in history you might see it as like the sound, the Jews. That's why I say the Jews. They get it from the JU. But really it will be Yahawadah. But
Uh-huh.
again, that goes into the so called Negroes. But it says Ouida, also known as Ouida, is a commercial center in the modern African nation of Benin, which when you ultimately go and touch into Benin, that's broken Hebrew for Banyam, which the I that would be really be a YA, and the N at the end will be a Ma. It will be Banyam, which means sons. So it says African nation of Benin that was one of the most active slave trading ports in all Africa. Europeans called the Bight of Benin, where Ouida is located, and the surrounding region the Slave Coast, because pretty much what happened was after 70 AD, pretty much Southern Kingdom went to the interiors of Africa, with a lot of the slave trade going on from the western side of the country, or the continent. That's they call it a continent, but pretty much the western side of the continent. So you got Benin. You got I believe the like the Ivory Coast is over there. Pretty much the
Fort,
western side of the continent. That's pretty much where a lot of Judah was at.
right. If I can add in there too, you have Fort Judah as well. I don't know if you have that the map of the kingdom that we had over on the western side of Africa.
Kind of
You
about to
can
pull
pull
it
it
up
up,
right now.
because
There
they
you
Hmm.
added
go.
when we fled out of Jerusalem in 70 AD. All right, hey, our people were in different was in the western part mainly, and then like the northern part as well. So we was all pretty much all over different parts of Africa, and this is why the Hamites, they was helping Esau gather us up. Like you see here, Negro land. You
Hmm.
see Fort Judah. Like you said, the kingdom of what how you say it, Benin.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Benin. Yeah, it really will be Banyam, because pretty much what Jake would do is, no matter where Jake was at, Jake would still subscribe to certain customs. It just like we slowly fell away, over the years. So some of these cities and towns and villages and stuff like that, they'll have like different names that derive from us as a people. Like even when you subscribe it when you ascribe it to when we came over to the Americas. You had they called them Hebos, but really it was that was broken Hebrew for Hebrew. You know.
Right. Because to
Mm-hmm.
add to you, our people still had, remnants of our history and even just the customs. Because real quick, off of what you said earlier, this is Romans chapter 2, verse 14. It says, "For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law, these having not the law are a law unto themselves," because it's in our people, to do certain customs that they may not know where they get it from. Like for example, you see most of so-called black people, they circumcise their sons. A lot of our people don't really know where that go back to, but that's actually in our law of how you're supposed to circumcise your son. I believe it's on the 8th day. That's part of the
Mm-hmm.
tradition of being an Israelite. Just giving an example of that, how we're not supposed to eat meat with the blood in it and different things like that. So that spirit is always in our people, but like I said, it's just through a loss of our history is why they don't know where that stuff goes back to.
Mm-hmm. Hey, if I make mention real quick, right here in this map, it says right there, Kingdom of Judah
Mm-hmm.
or Ouida.
Yep.
Right. So
So that
these
article.
devils knew. It's like
Mm-hmm. No, no, go ahead, bro.
no, I was gonna say that these devils knew who they were coming to get when they was rounding up the slaves. They knew they weren't just grabbing up random black people. They knew they was coming to get the so-called Jews, man. Well, not so-called, the real Jews.
Mm-hmm. No, I just wanted to make mention. This is that place that we're talking about. That's that article that we're reading. Ouida. That's
Mm-hmm.
this. That's this right here. The Slave
Right.
Coast, as it says right there. So they knew
Right.
what they were. They knew what they were coming for.
And then to add to you, because as you know, the different maps were being made throughout the process of history. All right, Esau eventually, you know, changed the names of those different lands to where you eventually saw like these what we're seeing on the screen right now. They faded those out and replaced those with different names.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Con.
Yeah, I got this right here if I can. This is Yahawadah Jeremiah chapter 14 and verse 2. It says, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish, they are black unto the ground, and the
Mm-hmm.
cry of Jerusalem is gone up. So pretty much, just going into that, when you look at, we come in all shades of brown, you see, but predominantly, Judah has that, that brown skin, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because
And
that's
that's why
where
Esau tried to hide behind the guise of that. He tried to say that Judah was so-called Africans, but really,
mm-hmm.
they would be the tribe of Judah. You see that their skin is just brown, you know.
Right. That for you here in the Zondervan Bible Compact Dictionary is just to prove to you that we ain't no damn Africans. And could you get that where it talks about how the Lord put up a difference between the Egyptians and Judah?
Con.
I'll get this definition for Ham real quick just to add to the brother's point about how we're not Africans. So this is out of the Bible Zondervan Bible Compact Dictionary dealing with the definition of Ham. It says the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 86 years before the flood, and out of 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. So proving that even these scholars know that the so-called black people, they did not that we're not African. Just because we was in that land, that doesn't mean that we're African, because to understand why we were in that land, you have to go into the history to figure out why we were brought over there. Now, can you get that preset real quick?
Oh, so like, yeah, I pulled up the wrong one.
That's it right there.
That's it. Yeah, verse
Oh,
7.
this is it?
That's
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exodus 11:7 it says, "But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue against man or beast, that ye may know, how Yahweh put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel."
Right. So the Lord put a difference between the Hamites and the Israelites, and you can tell that by the Spirit, because we come from the line of Shem. Because when you go into the flood after the flood, Noah had 3 sons that survived, which was Ham, Shem, and Japheth. The Egyptians or the other Africans, they come from the seed line of the Hamites. Now, the so-called Negro, along with the rest of the Northern Kingdom, okay, we came out of the line of Shem, so we're not Africans, man. And then just to prove the point of how we even ended up in Africa, all right, this is out of Babylon, from Babylon to Timbuktu. It says in the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people, because we understand that the Romans pretty much they besieged Jerusalem. All right, they surrounded Jerusalem, pretty much put a blockade in to where nobody could bring anything in or go out. So they pretty much starved us out to where we were in a worst case scenario. So when you read in in the scriptures about how the Lord told us pretty much to flee into the mountains. All right, the Jakes that didn't flee, they ended up in this thing what we're talking about now, to where they got besieged in the time of 70 AD. So here's the point: during the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. So just hitting the point of how this is how we ended up in Africa. All right, we're not from Africa. All right, like scriptures tell you. All right, Jerusalem is our homeland. All right, that's the
Mm-hmm.
mother of us all. Not African. You hear people talk about Africa being the motherland. That's bullshit. That's not true. All right, we come from Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
I got it though.
Con.
Con.
Bros had any more precepts?
Wow.
On that part, nah. Well, I can go in that Joel like I quoted earlier because, like I said, how the slaves, we put them on auction blocks or whatever. So I just grabbed this Joel real quick. Like I said, a lot of the slaves that was on the slave market were black Jews, right? So this is Joel 3:3. They have cast lots for my people and have given a boy for an harlot and sold a girl for wine that they might drink. And that's what was happening to our people. All right. They put us on auction blocks. They sold us off to different plantations. They sold, boys for prostitutes, sold girls for wine. And a good example of that, when you watch that movie Goodbye Uncle Tom, they showed you that straight up in that movie. And that movie was pretty much like a documentary. The things that you saw in that movie was actually happening in real time. So this just goes to show you that this was part of the curse that was going to befall the nation of Israel because of our disobedience against Yahawadah Hashem Yahawashi, regardless of what these different unbelievers say. This is our history.
Right.
Con.
But that's all I had.
May I get a precept real quick?
Okay, you got it.
Con. This is Isaiah 5. Let's see. Verse 13. It says, "Therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and the multitude dried up with thirst." Right. So because we departed from the ways of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, therefore that's why we see the curses, and that's why we pretty much living. We're embodying the curses right now because Jake has continually gone backwards. And I remember this point that you mentioned, priest. There's a precept. I mean, there's a couple precepts to this going into how Jake continuously that cycle of continual backsliding. I forgot what precept that was.
I got you. Psalms 106.
Con, let me get that.
Psalms 106 and start at verse 30. You can start at 32.
Con. This is Psalms 106 and verse 32. It says, "They angered him also at the waters of strife, so that it went ill with Moses for their sakes, because they provoked his spirit, so that he spake unadvisedly with his lips."
Right. And when you go into the history, this was when wars in the wilderness and Israel was complaining because they were in the wilderness for 40 years. They was hungry, they was thirsty. Even though the Most High was providing, the food and drink for them, Israel was still complaining. To where this last time that Israel was complaining about being thirsty, they caused Moses to sin with his lips. So you had the first time when Moses split the rock of Horeb, and he gave the glory to the Most High. But this time when Israel was complaining, Moses slipped with his tongue and took credit what was due to the Most High. And the Most High ended up, pretty much punishing him by not allowing him to go into the promised land. He allowed him to see the promised land, but he didn't get to go into it himself.
Con. Continuing on, it says, verse 34, "They did not destroy the nations concerning whom Yahweh commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works."
Right, because as it says in Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, we're a holy people. That word holy means to be separate. So what made us separate from the rest of the nations, like it says in Psalms 119, it's like not 119, 147, 19, 20, we were given the law, statute, commandments as a covenant to show that we were one with our power. So when we were, instructed to go into these different lands and remove these heathen from among us, we weren't supposed to learn their works, which is why when you read in Jeremiah 10 and 1, it told us not to learn the way of the heathen, but our people were always, envious of the heathen. They saw what they had and they wanted that, man.
Yeah, the same playbook as in the garden.
Exactly.
Verse 36, "And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them."
And we're seeing that today. Okay, like in the curses, it said that we will worship gods of both wood and stone, being the two major, strongholds that hold our people, especially the Negro, is Christianity and Islam. So Jake is a habitual idolater, man. And it doesn't take much for Jake to serve, different idols, man.
Verse 37, it says, "Yea, they sacrifice their sons and their daughters unto devils, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood." It says, thus were they defiled with their own works and went a whoring with their own inventions.
Right. And you can look at today. You're seeing that today. Like, and the main examples we could use is look at these celebrities.
Right.
Look at P. Diddy. Look at Lil Wayne, Jay-Z, Denzel Washington, all these different celebrities, man. And it's mainly the so-called black man that they put in the forefront. That's the biggest, devil worshiper, man. So it's the same thing that's been going on today. The same idols are being worshipped. They're just different names now.
Mm-hmm. Verse 40. Therefore was the wrath of Yahweh kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred his own inheritance.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave them into the hand of the heathen, that they that hated them ruled over them.
And this is why we're in the hand of our enemies today, because of what we did to the Lord to move him to anger, man.
Mm-hmm. Verse 42. Their enemies also oppressed them, and they were brought into subjection under their hand.
And this is why to this day, all the tribes are here in America, Babylon the Great, being oppressed as we speak. That was really the point.
Right.
And this has been we keep reading. It talks about how the Lord, eventually had compassion upon us and would deliver us, but it was a continuous cycle that our people, would go into captivity, repent, call upon the Lord would deliver us, we'd be good for a little bit, and then it'll go right back into the same spiral, man. So this is why at this last point, the Lord, he said, fuck it, and took our heritage from him. When you read Jeremiah 17:4, matter of fact, can you put it on the screen real quick?
Con.
And then we'll give it back to you, whoever had it, whoever it was.
Con. This is Jeremiah 17:4. And thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever.
And this is why the so-called black man can't overcome here in America, because you don't, number one, you don't know who you are. You call yourself everything under the sun, but who you really are as being the real Israelites, man. And you're not a Moor, all right. You're not an Asiatic black man. You're not a Muslim. You're not an Egyptologist. You're not a Pharaoh. You're none of these names that you've been clinging to. You are a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Judah, so-called black man. All right. And until you understand that, and you're going to stay in this perpetual cycle of sin. All right.
Mm-hmm.
The curses are going to stay, upon you, and they're going to continue to burn you more and more until you repent, man.
Con.
But y'all got it.
Con. Can we go back to Genesis 49?
Con. Genesis 49 and verse 9. It says, Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up.
Mm-hmm.
He stooped down. He couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up?
Right. So as I said, Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. That he stooped down and crouched as a lion, because Jake, in the early days of America, all right, you saw Jake, trying to fight, for their equal rights, man. You would see, the civil rights movement. You see these different, different things that Jake was doing to try to, put themselves on equal footing with the so-called white man, the Edomites, man. All right. So, like I said, in the old, early days, all the way up until, the crack era, Jake pretty much, was letting that presence be felt, that they were here, they was trying to, make it, chase the American dream and all that once we were let out of slavery. But as it says, as an old lion, he crouched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? Because when Esau began to, attack Jake after, Black Wall Street, like I said, the different things that Jake was doing, the ABA, the Negro League, we was flourishing. But when Esau introduced the crack movement, the 3-strike law, these different things that gave Jake jobs and whatnot, that fight eventually left Jake. And that's why you see our people are crouched down,
Mm-hmm.
But we're in a point in time now to where, Esau is beginning to rouse Jake up, because you got these YNs now, these YNSs, all right, they pretty much are, becoming aware of what's going on. So the Lord is beginning to put that spirit of fight back into Judah, man. All right,
Mm-hmm.
because we understand that the Lord is going to use the so-called black man all right, to rouse up the rest of the tribes. Because a good example of that you had was during the Rodney King riots, where you had Judah protesting after Rodney King got his ass beat. You saw the tribes kind of, unite for a little bit, man. You had
Mm-hmm.
so-called Mexicans, they was with Judah in the streets, and even you had some, alliances with like the Black Panthers, the Young Lords, the I think the natives had a thing too. I can't remember what theirs was
Yeah,
called.
it was called AIM,
Mm-hmm.
American Indigenous Movement.
Right. So that's when the tribe pretty much got roused up for a little bit, but then Esau quelled that again. But we're in a point now to where the Lord is beginning to rouse that spirit of fight back in Judah, man. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Con.
You keep going.
Continue, continuing on, verse 10, it says, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and unto him shall the gathering of the people be."
Right, and it says the scepter shall not depart from Judah. The scepter going into going into rulership. So with Judah being the head tribe, with Yahawashi, springing from Judah. Could we get that real fast? Could we get Hebrews Ibaryah chapter 7 and verse 14?
I got you. I'm right here. Um, Hebrews chapter 7. Hebrews 7 and 14. For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood.
So that head position is going to stay with the tribe of Judah. With Yahawashi, ruling on down, so on and so forth. From Yahawashi to King David to the 12 apostles, or to the 144,000. And again, with Judah being that head tribe.
Right. Because to add to
Mm,
you, all right, Judah being the head tribe, doesn't mean that Judah is the best tribe out of all the rest of the 12 tribes, but it's just because Yahushua came out of Judah, that's what makes Judah the head tribe, because Judah isn't even the firstborn. All right, Reuben was actually the firstborn, but prophecy, is set to make Judah the head tribe. Because like we said, this is where our Lord came out of.
Mm-hmm. We can go back to Genesis 49, because when we talking about Judah, pretty much, the truth started with Judah, due to
Mm-hmm.
prophecy. Back when we look at the ancient world, um, pretty much Judah was provoked to jealousy. you know
That's right.
so
mm.
could we get Zechariah chapter 12 and verse 7?
Con. Zechariah 12 and verse 7, it reads, Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first.
Because pretty much the truth came out of Judah first. When we look at back in the ancient world with all the teachers back then, and then also in these times too. When we look at our elders, essentially, they was Judites. At the old school, the One West school.
Mm-hmm. Con. It says, Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah.
Right, because Judah is still the head tribe.
Mm-hmm. And
Right.
we know that it says in the glory of the house of David, because the house of David is that governing body that's going to pretty much, run the kingdom. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you look at King David and his mighty men, right? That's going to be, like I said, the governing body. So it said the Lord shall save the tents of Judah first. The Lord had to raise up the so-called blacks first. And you saw all the other tribes, begin to stand up as well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
Con.
from there we go back to Genesis 49, and we can run that back. Yeah, Genesis 49 and verse 10, it says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, which Shiloh goes into Yahweh Shai. And when you go into Shiloh, could you click into that word, Baba Kushah?
Con. Shaylah.
Mm-hmm. You scroll down. It says, yeah, just a title of a title of Yahawadah. You know, it says tranquility, rest. You know, come to me, all that are heavy laden, and I shall give you the rest. Roughly paraphrasing.
Con.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Yahweh Shai is going to bring peace to the world. Because, you know, for those that have ears to hear, who was Yahweh Shai in the reincarnation? It was King Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
Con.
Because Solomon was like Shalama, right?
Yeah, Shalama.
Shalama, which
Yep.
is, you know, peace.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nomen omen, man. If you have the ears to hear.
Con.
Can you go back? And it says, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shayalah come, and then unto him shall the gathering of the people be. Could you get Isaiah 34:16?
Con, I got a precept
Okay.
as well.
This is Isaiah 34:16. Or did you want to get your first priest?
You get your
Priest gives.
okay, real quick. Exodus 23 and 20, because just how I said that Yahweh Shai is bringing that peace, right? So Exodus 23 and 20, it says, Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared, which that place being the kingdom of heaven. Okay. It says, Beware of him and obey his voice, provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Okay, now this is just proving that Yahweh Shai, that his name is Yahweh Shai, because it says the Heavenly Father's name will be in his name. So just proving that Yahweh Shai is that angel that Moses was prophesying about that was going to bring us into the way of rest. It
Mm-hmm.
says,
Mm-hmm.
But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies and an adversary unto thine adversaries. So the point being of Yahweh Shah is going to be the one that's going to bring us the deliverance and rest, out of this captivity. That's why we read Deuteronomy 28 and 68. It said that no man shall buy us. That word buy means to redeem. The only one that can redeem us out of this captivity is Yahweh Shai. So this is why we have to wait upon him.
Right.
Con.
This is Isaiah 34:16. It says, Seek a out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. Talking about the prophecies. Every prophecy that has been written in the scriptures has came to pass, and then those that are we're still waiting on, they're going to come to pass. The
Yep.
Lord doesn't waste his word. It
Mm-hmm.
says, no one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate. You can't go to the Quran, you can't go to the Egyptian book of the dead, you can't go to any other book. Essentially the scriptures is what's going to bring out the truth of the matter. It's going to bring out the prophecies. That's what's going to let us know what to do in any time period in history. you know
Mm-hmm.
but it says, none shall want her mate, for my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them. Now, precepting that with it was Genesis. We go back to Genesis 49, because essentially the elect was gathered by the scriptures, which represents Yahweh Shai.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And if I may, just real quick, just to add to your point, uh, one thing I want to say is that the scriptures, the Bible, is really a historical, is a history book. You
Exactly.
know,
Yep.
it's not just like the Christians like to use it as a religious text, but it's also a has historical records in it. You know,
Right.
like every time you see these historians, they always reference the Bible as to correlating whether it's true or not. And why is that? Because they understand that the scriptures are true, man. They understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's really this whole like narrative that it's in the world that, oh, it's just a religious text. But really, when you go into it, uh, 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 all these things, these archaeologists are digging up everything that we see in the whole history of where these ancient cities were. These archaeologists are digging it up and finding out to be true,
Right.
right?
The example to add to your point is when you read the book of Exodus, when the Lord, exodus us out of Egypt, when you read the story about how he opened the waters up so that the
Mm-hmm.
Israelites could cross over and then the Egyptians tried to follow through and he drowned them, Esau went and he found the chariots He found the skeletons, man. So he knows that that story was true just as well as Sodom and Gomorrah. You know, they found artifacts that, you know, go back to King David, King Solomon. You know, they have, you know, these different things to prove the scriptures are real. But like you said, the thing about it is these devils know that the Bible is a history book, and this is why they have done everything to try to disassociate the so-called Negroes from the scriptures. But this is your history book. You Jakes talk about black history and all this. Well, hey, the Bible is your true quote unquote history. You know, I don't want to say black history because that's a derogatory term, but that your true history is in the scriptures, man. You know, because without the scriptures, like they say in the world, if you don't know the history, then you won't know the mystery. You won't be able to connect the dots to understand why you're over here in this position now, unless you know where you come from.
Right.
That's
Right.
why we just got Isaiah 34:16. Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. Jake don't like to read.
Hey, they said that in slavery, right? They said, if you want to hide something, put it in a book, right? You want to hide something from a nigga, put it in the book, right? Because that, why do you think that stigma still stays today? Because during slavery, okay, if you were caught reading, you were whipped. But if they caught you reading the scriptures, you were put to death. Why? Because Esau didn't want you, Jakes, to understand that the people that you read about in these scriptures was you. That's why Nat Turner, he read the scriptures, and the Lord opened his eyes up to see that this book was talking about us, and this is why he went on that war path against all those different slave masters, and that's why Esau came down so hard against him. And that's after that they was like, yeah, we can't allow no black to be able to go into these scriptures. This is why you have your plantation Christianity, that if you read the scriptures, there was always a slave master in the back making sure that the so-called preacher man, all right, played into the doctrine that they gave you. That's why they gave you the slave Bible, where they took out all the scriptures dealing with being exited from slavery, and they just obey your master, servants obey your master. That's all they was pushing that, man. That's why a lot of black people disassociate themselves from the Bible, because they look at this as a so-called white man's book, because they don't know the history of what got to that point.
Right. Right. Hey, and that's the reason why when you read in Revelation 11:11, it talks about great fear fell upon them who saw them.
That's right.
Those of us that rose up, right? Because they understand that pursuant to Judah, the 5th chapter, around the 20th verse, it talks about how the Most High will fight for us if we were right with the Most High, right? And essentially, they understand that they can't fight against the power of the Lord. They see the chariots, they see all these things. They know they can't fight against it, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they're in great fear, because they know their time is up. They understand that prophecy is being fulfilled right now as we're living,
right,
as
and
we're speaking right now.
One more point, not to rant, just to add to what you said, Yeshaya. This is why, going back to that Judah you just quoted, when you go up to about like verse 17, Esau understood the source of our power. So this is why they keep Israel in a state of sin, because they understand that. Matter of fact, could you put that on the screen just for edification's sake?
Come on.
Judah 5, we'll start at verse 17. This is why they tell you, so-called blacks, that the laws are done away with, because they understand if they can keep you sinning, that's how they stay winning.
Come on. This is Judah 5 and verse 17. It says, "And while they sinned not before their power, they prospered, because the Most High that hated iniquity was with them."
Right. So when we were one with our power, we were unstoppable. That's why when you read about the great feats of our ancestors like King David, the mighty men, and the different feats that we were doing in our history, because when we were one with our power, we were like God, man. Go ahead.
Verse 18. "But when they departed from the way which he appointed them, they were destroyed in many battles, very sore, and were led captives into a land that was not theirs, and the temple of their power was cast to the ground, and their cities were taken by their enemies."
Right. So they understood that when we were in sin, that they knew that the Most High wasn't with us anymore. So that's when the heathen understood. That's when we come against the Israelites, when we see that they're in sin. And this is why till this day, everything about America is to keep Israel in a perpetual state of sin, which makes us separated from our power, which is why Esau is able to do the things that he's doing to us, man. That was the most part. But if you want to keep reading, go ahead.
Con. I'll just read it for edification's sake.
Con.
Verse 19 it says, "But now they are returned, so like it, but now are they returned to their power, and are come up from the places where they were scattered, and have possessed Jerusalem, where their sanctuary is, and are seated in the hill country, for it was desolate." Right, and it was time and time again that our people would return back to Jerusalem, but like we mentioned earlier, our people will always backslide. They will get comfortable. They'll be enjoying the blessings, and the next thing you know, they'll like the scripture says, Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked.
Yep.
You know, our people got comfortable and it started, to just feel like the most. They pretty much started to neglect the Most High in a sense.
Jay got that short term memory loss.
Right.
Right.
That whole "what have you done for me lately" type of spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
But continuing on, it says, "Now therefore, my Lord and Governor, if there be any error against his people, and they sin against their power, let us consider that this shall be their ruin, and let us go up, and we shall overcome them." And that's what happened, right? When you read like the priest brought out Deuteronomy 28 and 48, right? That's the reason why they came up against us to destroy us, because, or that's the reason why they were able to come up against us and destroy us, because we were transgressing against our power, right? Jake was kings, Jake was rulers, man, during the Dark Ages, but we
Yep.
were going off,
Yep.
and that's what led to them. That's why the Most High sent Esau against us, right? Because Jake was into Islam. They were into Christianity, but they were like going way off, worshiping
Right.
Mary, idol worship, just all kinds of shit.
Because I want to add too, when you go back up to verse 17, where it said that when we were one with our power and we were pretty much like gods, that's when you
Mm-hmm.
read Psalms 82 and 6, where the Lord literally said that we are gods, but we shall
Mm-hmm.
die like men. All right. When you go into, like all the historical people in history that Esau claims was white, Jake, it was mainly the so-called blacks that was, the source of all these superheroes and these different, great people. But Esau
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want you to equate yourself with that, which is why they whitewashed everything. And pretty much the best thing that a nigga could do is play basketball or rap in today's time. But when you go into history, all the people of prominence were so-called black. Beethoven, Mozart,
Mm-hmm.
Shakespeare. Hell,
Mm-hmm.
they even found Thor. Thor was a real person. Thor was they call him a Norse god. That word Norse goes back to black. He was real. You know, different King David, all these different people of notoriety in history were so-called black. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but Esau tries to give you Black History Month. That's the pretty much the best we could do was the stuff we did here in America, not knowing that we civilized the whole fucking world.
Right. Right. Yeah, they pretty much give you slavery as a thing to continue to remember. Remember slavery. Remember slavery. But
Exactly,
they don't tell you to remember all the great things that we did in the past.
exactly. Like the scriptures say, I'm gonna read it right here. Prince not Yanazar, Psalm 82 and 6. I have said ye are gods, and all of you are sons of the Most High. Right. Hey, because when we are in our right stead, we are gods, gods on the earth. That word God being, judges. We are the true judges of this world, man. All right, starting with the so-called blacks, but all the tribes, man. We're all judges, because going back to what y'all read in Hebrews earlier, all right, when Yahawadah came on the scene and he, ascended into the heavens, through the him doing that act, allowed all the priests, it's like allowed all the tribes to become, priests, you
Right.
know.
Con. And that's the reason why it's important to come back, because
Right,
that's when we're going to partake in those blessings, right?
right.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm going to read here in 21, we'll finish it out. It says, "But if there be no iniquity in their nation, let my Lord now pass by, lest their Lord defend them, and their power before them, and we become a reproach before all the world." So this is
Mm,
what they fear,
yep.
right? That's why Revelation 11 and 11 says what it says, because they understand that us coming back, us standing upon our feet, is a detriment to their society, to their kingdom.
Right, right. That's why the biggest fear that these devils have is seeing you so-called black men on the corners with these Bibles. They
Mm-hmm.
are terrified because they understand that this is spelling out their downfall, man.
Mm-hmm. Hey, and if this ain't the truth, why do you see all these things happening around us right now? Everything that
Exactly,
prophecy is saying.
exactly. And it all started with the so-called black man coming back to the Bible.
Right.
Right.
Con. So we can go
Yeah.
back. This is Genesis 49.
Genesis 49 was at verse 11.
Con. Genesis 49 and verse 11, it says, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes.
And it says, and his ass is caught unto the choice vine, which the fulfillment of that is in Zechariah 9:9. The Lord came humbly on that ass is caught. Could you get that?
Con.
Zechariah 9 and verse 9.
Con. This is the book of Zechariah 9 and verse 9. It says, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy kings come unto thee. He is just and having salvation. Lowly,
Yahawadah, he delivers.
uh, it says, lowly and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt of the foal of an ass.
Right. So that the fulfillment of that prophecy was when he came riding on that ass is caught. Going back to Genesis the 49th chapter and 11th verse.
Uh, going back, Genesis 49 and verse 12.
So like it says, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass is caught unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. Could we get Isaiah 63? Because when the Lord come back, he coming back. The scriptures say that he's coming to wound the heads over many countries. Roughly paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
This is Isaiah 63 and verse 1. Who is this that cometh from Edom, with dyed garments from Basra? This is that glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength? I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save.
Right. So it says, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? Because when the Lord comes back, it's symbolic for how much bloodshed is going to happen. With the heathen. And it says this that is glorious in his apparel. Because again, to reiterate, the Lord came humbly, he came lowly on that ass's colt. You see, when he returns, he's going to be back in his angelic form. You know, it says, "I
Mm-hmm.
that speak in righteousness, mighty to save." He's coming back. To save the elect of the nation of Yasharallah.
Con. Can I
Right.
get a precept for you real quick, bro?
Okay.
Jeremiah 4 and 7. It says, the lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant.
Right, because pretty much the Lord said that he has long time holding his peace. Now will he cry and roar like a travailing woman, roughly paraphrasing. You see, because the Lord essentially is waiting patiently, for the Lord Yahweh to dispatch him. You see,
Right.
so that he can come and destroy these nations. You see, and then ultimately do away with 2/3. Destroy 2/3 on this side.
Mm-hmm. Con. Verse 2, it says, wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat?
Right, pretty much going back to Genesis the 49th chapter, because it's the scriptures say that the Lord says in Hosea 12 and 10, he speaks in similitudes, roughly paraphrasing. So this is a similitude for how much bloodshed is going to happen on the planet Earth, when the Lord returns,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
because contrary to popular belief, the Lord is not happy with how things are being ran in society.
Hell no.
Con. Precept for that. This is Matthew chapter 10, verse 34. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword.
Right. So the Lord with a sword, you're gonna divide. So the spirit of the Lord is moving throughout the earth. All right. Ultimately, people are choosing sides. With the believers choosing the side of the Lord, and the unbelievers they just with the world. You see, but then also with the sword, you also destroy and kill with the sword. So that's also symbolic talk for how much the killing the Lord is going to do.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Verse 3, Isaiah 63 and verse 3, it says, I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I would tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and the blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment.
Right, and the fulfillment of that is going to be in Second Esdras, the 13th chapter.
Mhm.
Also Isaiah 66, I believe it's verse 15. You know,
Also, Revelation the 19th chapter.
hmm Isaiah 34,
Yep.
uh, verse 5. I'm gonna get that real fast. Um, Zayashaya, this is Isaiah chapter 34, and we'll get verse 5, and it says, "For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment." And pretty much Idumea is the Greek way to say, Edom, you so-called white people. You know, the Lord's going to destroy Edom, you see, and then also those that are attached to Edom, attached to the lifestyles of the heathen, so that represents, 2/3. And it
Right.
says, the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath a sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. You see, and that can be precept again, with Isaiah 63. You know, you had quoted Revelation 19, right, priest?
Con.
Revelation 19. Isaiah 66, Second Ezra 13. When the Lord comes back, he's coming back for destruction, for
Yep.
salvation for the elect, and destruction, for those that's not on the correct side of the Lord.
That's right.
That's right. That's right. Because ultimately, if you don't choose Yahawashi, you ultimately choose death. You
Con.
ultimately don't want life, right? That's the reason why when you read in Wisdom of Solomon, the second chapter, the 24th verse, it pretty much mentions how through the devil came envy of death, but it says that they that hold of his side do find it. So if you take it on the side of Esau, you're gonna find death, man. That's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be the end of the road for you.
That's right. Yeah. And in other words, if you're not with the Lord, you're against him. They
Right.
say a man cannot serve two masters, right? So, real quick, this is Matthew 12 and 30. He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad. So, just adding to what you brothers were saying, you either with the Lord or you ain't. It's
Mm-hmm.
simple as that.
Repent, yea, or perish.
That's
That's
it.
it.
It's
God.
simple and plain, man. Yahweh Shah, when he, as you said earlier, he came as that lamb, he came humble. Well, he's
Mm-hmm.
coming in this time as that roaring lion to obtain that glory that he, is deserved here on earth. Because when he went and sacrificed himself upon that cross, all right, that allowed him to obtain that glory in the heavens. So now he's coming back to obtain his glory on the earth. And if you're not willing to bow down and serve him, like it says in Luke, them that will not worship me, bring them hither and slay them before me. Okay, Yahweh Shah is going to get rid of you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You want to go back to that Isaiah?
We go back to Genesis 49.
Con.
And I had Revelation, the first chapter, and that's pretty much all I had.
Khan.
Con. This is Genesis 49 and verse 12. It says, "His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk."
Pretty much giving the description, of the Lord, and the Lord, he drunk wine. Could we get
Right.
Genesis chapter, excuse me, Revelation chapter 1? We start at verse 13.
Khan. Let me add to that real quick because where it said that his eyes were red with wine because that also was dealing with that vengeance. Because like I said
Mm-hmm.
in Exodus, I want to say it's 15:3, where it said the Lord is a man of war. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yahweh Shai comes in the image of his father, so he's coming, with that vengeance. The wage of war on the world. Those that will not worship him, all right, you're going to be going to war against him. You're going to be destroyed.
Con.
Mm-hmm.
Con. So you asked for Revelation 1:13, right?
Con.
This is Revelation 1 and verse 13. It says, "And in the midst of the seven candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle."
Right. It says, one like unto the Son of Man. It's talking about Yahweh Shai. And it says, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with the golden girdle. You know.
It says,
Yeah, the 7 candlesticks represents the 7 churches.
Con. Verse 14. His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire.
Mm-hmm. And like Elder Malcolm brings out, you know, like when you ultimately go into when you go into Negro hair in like the old dictionary, you know, it'll say, you know, the texture of wool. You see, and then also the Lord is the express image of wisdom. You know, he has a head full of, you know, white hair.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna pull that up real quick. Let me look for it. I had it saved in my phone. But y'all go ahead. I'm gonna look for that just to prove what your mom said because Esau understands exactly what that scripture is. But see, you'll hear them break that down wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Con. Want me to continue reading?
Yeah.
I'm about to send you the link. Matter of fact, go on dictionary.com
Con.
and type in the word wool, and it should be under the 1894 definition. You know, we just prove like scripture say, prove all things, right? So just adding to what the brother Yawam just said, showing you that where it says that his head and his hair were white like wool. All right, Yahawadah had white woolly hair and he had a white beard. That's at dictionary.com, dictionary.net, Salaki.
Oh, Salaki.
You know, so because Esau will he's the master of semantics. So anytime when we get to talking about the images of the Lord, Esau will bounce all around everything he could try to, do to try to, admitting that the Lord was a so-called black man. Because remember, the scriptures we read earlier in Hebrews said that the Lord sprang out of the tribe of Judah, right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if he came out of Judah, and we read in Jeremiah that Judah was black unto the ground, put two and two together now. All right.
Right. Con. This is wool from dictionary.net. From
Keep
it
holding
said,
the screen so they can see it.
oh, Salakia. I thought I was Salakia. There you
No,
go.
you good. Go ahead.
Salakia. This is a wool from dictionary.net. It says 1894, the soft curled hair of sheep and other animals, closely curled hair of Negroes.
Come on, man. So this shows you that Esau knows the truth. All right, because like they have that saying in the world, in order to tell a lie, you must know the truth, right?
Right.
So the Lord was a so-called black man, and to
Mm-hmm.
prove that they know that, we just had Putin last year, a couple months ago. All right, unlock the vaults, the Russian icons, and what do you see? The true image of the Messiah, which shows you he ain't no white man.
Mm-hmm. Actually, have this pulled up already.
Yeah, matter of fact, while you getting that, I'll read Job 9:24, and you can just keep that on the screen.
Con.
All right, this is Job chapter 9, verse 24. It says, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked being the so-called white man, all right, who are known as the wicked, because it's three classifications of men in the scriptures. You have the sons of God, all right, which are the Israelites, you so-called Negro Latino Native Americans. You have the sons of men, which are the other heathen nation. You have the sons of the wicked, which are the so-called white people, the Edomites, man. All right. So the earth was given into the hand of the wicked, being the Edomites, the people who rule this world today. It said he covered the faces of the judges thereof, if not where and who is he? Right. The judges being the people of the scriptures, because like I said earlier, the Israelites are the true judges. The chief judge being Yahawadah himself. All right. And as you can see, iconoclasm began, they began to whitewash the images because during the Renaissance era, which was Esau's rebirth into power, all right, he commissioned Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo to begin to whitewash the images of the so-called icons, man. So Esau understood that the people of the scriptures were so-called black men. This got one more here in the Apocrypha. All right. This is in Maccabees. I believe it's First Maccabees.
3 and 48.
Yeah, if you got it, go ahead, bro.
God, this is First Maccabees chapter 3 and verse 48, and it says, "And laid open the book of the law, wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images."
Right. And what comes to find out is that when you go up and look the original images of the Lord and the people of the Bible, you'll see that they were all so-called black men. Okay. They knew that the Israelites were so-called black. That's why you had the old president of Egypt, I think his name was something got Nasir, I forget this whole name, but he even said, there will never be peace in the Middle East because the Jews left black and came back white. So, these are all just things of how we know history has been tampered with, because Esau's history is exactly that. Is his history is his story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But y'all got it.
Khan, I just wanted to mention a couple things. Just scrolling through this, you can see that, of course, it shows biblical images like the beheading of Saint John and the nativity and all this, right? But one thing that also stick out is right here, like Saint Nicholas. This is a saint, from in the during the Dark Ages. And look at him, he's dark skinned, just showing you who the saints are, right? As we know, they're Israelites.
Yeah, that's the scripture that say that the saints are Israelites. If y'all do y'all know what it said?
I'm looking for it now.
Khan,
Um, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a minute, so I went into that.
Khan, yeah, because when you look at all these images, they all stem from before the Renaissance.
I got it right here.
Con, you got it. Go ahead.
Con, this is Tahoyam Psalms 148 and verse 14. It says, I'm sorry, verse 13. It says, "Let them praise the name of the Lord, for his name alone is excellent. His glory is above the earth and heaven. He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even the children of Israel, a people near unto himself, excuse me, unto him, praise ye the Lord."
You break down.
Con, I'm running back. Verse 14, it says, Psalms 148 and 14, it says, "He also exalted the horn of his people, the praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel." When the scripture says even, that's specifically what comes after that. That's what it's talking about. It says even of the children of Israel, which represents you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, Israelite foreigners. It says the people near unto him, praise ye the Lord, which the scriptures also say in I believe it's in Psalms the previous chapter 147. It talks about how the Lord gives his word, unto the tribes. The Lord is only dealing with the Israelites,
Mm-hmm.
pursuant to Romans the ninth chapter. You know, and when we go into that, we come looking, in all different facets, all different colors.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we could you go back to that Revelation?
Khan, Revelation, 1 and verse, what was that, 14? Yeah.
Yeah, 14.
It says, "His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire."
Right. We touched on, his head and his hairs were white like wool. Pretty much that goes into the texture. The wool goes into the texture of his hair, of his head. And pretty much when you look at, Judah had, Judah has that very, kinky type hair.
Yeah, I believe it's a definition that Hinky went. They put that back with so-called Negroes too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Khan. You want me to continue on?
Kanye.
Verse 15, it says, "And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burn in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters."
Right. It says his feet like unto fine brass. Your feet gonna be the same color as your face. So
Right.
you got some people that are coming like, oh well, he had brown feet, but you go to his face and it was olive colored. But it says his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burn in the furnace. If you burn anything in the furnace, it's gonna be very dark brown, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Now, if you put this in today's perspective, like, and you give this to and you put this label on someone with that right there, that would be describing a very melanated a so-called black man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when you describe the color, and it says his voice as the sound of many waters. You know, the Lord speaks with authority. You know, so on a smaller level, you know, a so-called black man speaks with a lot of authority, and a lot of times, you know, when Jake, you know, go into different workplaces and stuff like that, you know, it kind of scares Esau, you know. But if the Lord Yahweh Shai is the ultimate Judite, you know, he's going to speak with a lot of authority, you know.
Mm-hmm. Come. You know, and when he was on the earth, you know, he spoke with authority as well.
Hmm.
Mhm.
You got that example?
Live. What was it at? Oh, I don't even know.
It's a couple that going to. We don't got to get it, but it's all good.
Con.
Yeah,
That's
but the main thing, like you said, it was just the Lord spoke with authority. To say he was a austere man.
right.
Right. Con.
Yeah, that was pretty much all I had. If y'all didn't have nothing,
Con.
Uh,
Con.
I ain't had nothing. You try. So you got something? Go ahead.
Con. I just want to go into pretty much a little bit of the history because we just went into um Weta, right?
hmm
But just going into some of the history that happened just to show, you know, Jake, you know, first of all, that Esau ain't your friend. You know, Esau has always been the devil that the Bible speaks of. But at the same time, just giving you some history on the origin or how things started down for Jake, that downward spiral for Jake. But I want to get this. I want to read a little bit into this. This is it says Pope Nicholas V and the Portuguese slave trade. Right, so this is when it started. This is whenever things started taking ground for Esau, as far as him setting up his kingdom, his rulership, by the hands of that forced labor, which is you Jakes. But I'm gonna start around the middle of this paragraph right here, just to make it kind of quick. But it says legal and philosophical arguments to address this issue began to evolve during the second half of the 15th century once Portuguese mariners began to return to Iberia with captives acquired in West Africa and West Central Africa.
if I could mention
Notably,
too,
mhm,
if I could mention too, it says Iberia. That goes back to Ibar, which means Hebrew.
mm, Khan.
Mm-hmm.
It says, notably, the treatment of black Gentiles was addressed in 1452 and 1455 because, you know, back then you had these Edomites coming under the umbrella of Christianity. You know, they were talking about their uh, what they call doctrine of discovery. You
Yep.
know, the manifest destiny and all this. But back during these times, you know, you had these Edomites coming up and pretty much trying to pretty much say that anybody who's against Christianity, well, pretty much they're talking about forcing everybody into Christianity, right, and killing everybody off that was Gentiles. But continuing on, it says the treatment of black Gentile was addressed in 1452 and 1455, which was the year and the time period of the Renaissance, which is
Mm-hmm.
the rebirth of Esau's empire coming back, the rebirth of that Roman system. But it says when Pope Nicholas V issued a series of papal bulls that granted Portugal the right to enslave sub-Saharan Africans. It says church leaders argued that slavery served as a natural deterrent and Christianizing influence to barbarous behavior among pagans. Using this logic, the Pope issued a mandate to the Portuguese king Alfonso V and instructed him to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all uh, Saracens and pagans whatsoever, and to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery. You see, it says, and to apply and appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, and who are the only people that had dukes? When you go back
Right.
to the scriptures, the dukes, man.
Right. See, but this is all like you said earlier, at the beginning of him coming back into power because those dates you listed off. This is during the Renaissance period, so this is Esau beginning to bring himself back into the rulership, and this is where he began to go and spread them lies. Real quick, I got a precept for you. You can break it down.
Come,
This is Revelation chapter 20 and verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sea, the sand of the sea.
Right. So after the 1,000 years, right? Because when you look at the Roman Empire, it fell around the 300s, somewhere around there. But Jake was already creeping up into power even before that.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a period roughly around 1,000 years, because it was even Esau, his rise up, him creeping up, intermarrying with certain Jakes and coming into that position of power in order for him to pretty much infiltrate Jake's kingdoms. But that's how that was like a gradual process for him too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was about a period about 1,000 years, which they call the Dark Ages, or the medieval time period, where Jake was really ruling.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
Byzantine Empire, which means backwards.
right? That's what they tell you, in school, that, oh, we don't got no history on that. People didn't know how to read in this time, all this and that, or they didn't write things down. It was a dark time. It was a dark time for Esau. Esau got pushed back into them caves, man.
Right. Yeah.
Esau became the wild man, right? When you read about it in the history.
Right. This one Jake was flourishing. You had like the Moors and all that. The Moors had to civilize the Edomites back then, man. Like you said, that was in the caveman, in that caveman like state. The wild man
Hmm.
had big hairy werewolf looking niggas with clothes that was so old they was disintegrating off themselves, grunting and shit like that. You know? But like
Con.
it said he shall go out to deceive the nations, and this is what you're reading. Because this when Esau began to spread himself in the world with them lies.
Hmm. Yeah, portraying to be the people, claiming, trying to claim Jerusalem for himself, you know, and even, we understand that through prophecy, the Most High, has it to where Esau would come up, but he would Salakia. There was a point I wanted to make, but he would pretty much go out to these other nations and try to, get them on their side. Like, as you read Psalms 83rd chapter, right? It talks
Right.
about how, they would make a confederacy against us.
Hmm.
Well, the first name you read is always Esau. I mean, Esau is spearleading this conspiracy against us.
Right. Like a good example to add to what you're saying is when you read about in the book of First and Second Maccabees, that's all he was doing.
Hmm.
Making alliances. He even would make alliances with Jake and then backtrack on it later on. But it was all about him trying to do what he could to get to that high seat of power.
Hmm. Khan. And he would go, like the brother mentioned, he would go make those alliances with these other kingdoms, right? Which he did. You know, I don't know what I don't know what he told him, but maybe, like, well, I understand Esau is this envious type of person, so he would probably go over there, and try to, coerce these nations to come up against us, which he did, and they made
Mm-hmm.
that alliance, and did what they did. But
Right.
just showing you the point that, hey, this man has always been, trying to seek our downfall, as it says in the scriptures. They only consult to cast him down from his excellency.
That's right.
And this is the start of him doing that. Taking us down, because Jake was living in, man. We had the Mali kingdom, you had the Ireland, we had England, we had Spain,
Granada.
Constantinople. What you
Yeah.
said?
You said we had Granada.
Yeah, Granada. Man, we had all these major kingdoms during these time periods, and best believe, Esau was salty as hell when he saw us in this type of power, in this type of glory,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Because one of the main reasons why they were salty because we had their ass in slavery.
Right.
When you read about like guys like Vlad the Impaler, they
Mm,
they they put him to be an Edomite. He was a Jake, and one of his
right.
favorite pastimes was the impale Esau, the Edomites on spikes.
Con. Con. But I'm gonna read a little bit more into this. It says, to reproduce their persons to perpetual slavery, and to apply and to appropriate to himself and his successors the kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, possessions, and goods. Right. So everything that he got it by the way of the sword. He got it by force.
Mm-hmm.
It says, and to convert them to his and to their use and profit. and that's what they did. As a brother brought out, as a priest brought out, was it Joel 3:3, right?
Yep.
They had us on them auction blocks. They were, they sold a boy for a harlot and a girl for wine, right? But it says through the papal bull, though the papal bull mentions invading and vanquishing African peoples, no European nation was willing or able to put an army in West Africa until the Portuguese colonization of Angola. More than a century later, and even then, Portuguese forces received extensive aid from armies of Imbangala or Jaga mercenaries. Since early raids such as this one made by Goncalves and Tristão in 1441 were unusual and may have only been possible because the Portuguese had never previously raided south of Cape Bahador. But all this to say, they knew who they were going after because um, I think in the actual Papal Bull, it mentions where they should start from, and they started uh, pretty much with that. I had that I had that map. Let me pull it up. They pretty much started. They started right around here, all where Jake was at. Jake was pushed down here because
Hmm.
Spain was pushing the Moors down, and the Moors, they were granted a certain amount of land up north, like around Morocco, and but the rest of Jake that was down here, they were pretty much they sent ships to them and armies after them.
Hmm.
Hey, that sounds familiar, don't it? Don't that not sound like the Trail of Tears?
Exactly.
Right, because during
Uh,
that time period, you had like the Moors, you had the Moors, and you had like the golden age of piracy. So you had that. You had Esau warring. They pretty much was warring during that time right there. The Middle Passage. You still had the Moors up in northern Africa. You even had, I believe, some Moors. If I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Yeshaya, but pretty much I believe some of the Moors was enslaving some of Judah as well.
yeah, yeah, the were because when you go into the history, the Moors were fighting amongst each other.
Hmm.
There were different sections. Jake was pretty much suffering, going through the curses badly.
Right.
But this shows the map. This is the map of the transatlantic slave trade or the Middle Passage, right? It says enslaved Africans, the Middle Passage heading over here, right? So this was the trade routes,
Hmm.
you see. And you even had, some like we mentioned before, right? Northern Kingdom. Some of them got shipped off to Europe as well.
Hmm. And you had some of Judah went down into like Brazil too,
Khan,
like
yep.
that whole trade.
Yeah, yeah, because Portugal went into Brazil. So I don't know why they don't show it here. They should really show that there. We also had the trans-Saharan slave trade. So Jake was pretty much scattered everywhere under the hands of these heathen.
Uh,
But hey, I mean that's pretty much it. I would read into this, but we pretty much hit the points.
yeah. I'm gonna get that precept just so you know we got some edification add to that. What you just said about us being scattered.
Okay,
Uh,
Khan.
Going back to the curses, Deuteronomy 28. Give me 1 second.
Khan. Oh yeah, and we can also get the talking about being a proverb and a byword because it's also another thing Jake got to snap out of calling themselves black because you ain't black.
Right.
You're Jew. You're Israelite or Judah, Salakia.
Yeah, you are a Jew too, though. But
Yeah,
either
yeah.
way. Do y'all remember what that said in the curses? But we'll be scattered. I'm trying to
I think it's
remember.
verse 64.
Okay, yep, the water.
Mhm.
Deuteronomy 28 and 64. It says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth even to the other," which is what the brother has on the screen, the slave route, man. And there's more. It's not just the transatlantic. You have the sub-Saharan, you have the
Mm-hmm.
Arab, you have the Dutch.
Mm-hmm.
There's many slave trades where this is how you see so-called Negroes all over the world, man, as well as the other tribes as well. It
Mm-hmm.
says from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy father have known, even wood and stone. Because like you mentioned the Moors, all right. You had some of the Moors that knew they was Jews. You had a lot of the Moors that was worshiping Islam. Some had to convert to Christianity, and our people was all over the place, man. You know,
Mm-hmm. Con. Hey, but this is all to say, this is how Judah made it over here to America,
right?
right, and to the islands, right, the West Indies. All of them that call themselves Haitians, Jamaicans. Some of them Haitians derived from Levi, right? Jamaicans from Benjamin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then you got Judah, which predominantly of them landed here in America,
Yep.
right, which are you so-called Negroes.
Like I said, and them names have been changed throughout history. Like you said, you was
Hmm.
colored, you was Hebos, Negroes, Afro Americans. Now through Jesse Jackson, dumbass. Now you calling yourself African American, which is an oxymoron because African American is being named after two Edomites, Leo Scipio Africanus, and then Amerigo.
Amir goes. Yeah.
So you're not African American. You are Israelite, man, because there's no land called black. So that we can't be blacks of color.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
you're Israelite from the tribe of Judah. All right, and I got the other precept you quoted, Yeshaya, Deuteronomy 28:37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, where the Lord shall lead thee.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened. Like the brother, like priest just mentioned, all the bywords and proverbs and bywords you've been called under, man. Jacob subscribed under any name, but when it comes to being called an Israelite, like that's something that's like hush hush. You don't got to talk. You can't talk about that.
Right.
You know. And why is that? That's because they it's Esau doesn't want you to know the truth. He wants to keep you blind and subjected under him.
Right. Because, like you said, why do you think these Edomites don't care about any of these other names? They don't care if you call yourself a African, Egyptologist. You
Hmm.
call yourself a Nubian. You call yourself a Moor, Asiatic black man. You call yourself anything under the sun, but the moment you call yourself a Jew or Israelite, that's when it's a problem
Hmm.
because they don't want you associating yourself with the history of the Israelites because they know that is your history.
Right. Right. And that's when you read in Revelation 11 and verse 9, it talks about how they shall not suffer. They did not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves, and even to this day, they won't allow you to find out. I mean, that's why there's a lot of pushback, a lot of resistance against this word, right? Esau putting all these false narratives out there online to try to
Mm-hmm.
sway the minds of the people into confusion.
Mm-hmm.
But we understand only the elect are going to be saved. But the point being is that Esau is heavily opposed against his truth because he understands that you coming back is a threat to his society. You are the major threat.
Right.
You are
And
national security uh, threat number one.
right. And I got one more preset, and we can end with this unless I have something else.
Con.
This is Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 15. The word, somebody can break it down. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph the stick of Ephraim and for all the house of Israel his companions.
All right.
And
It said Judah, which represents the southern kingdom. You know, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi.
Hmm.
So-called Negroes, so-called Haitians, and so-called Jamaicans or West Indians.
mhm,
Then it said Joseph. That's Northern Kingdom. You know, from Joseph, you got Manasseh, and you got Ephraim. All
Hmm.
the way down. The Issachar, the northern tribes.
mhm.
Con.
It says, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand.
Right, and that's pretty much the 12 tribes chart. Because we are a very perceptive people. So by having that the 12 tribes chart, Jake can identify who they are on that chart. So where it says Ezekiel 37:17, it says, and join them one to another into one stick, because we read Isaiah 34:16, with the elect being gathered, by Yahawadah, by this word, which is starting with the elect on this side, it says, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand, because the split was after Malak Shalama, King Solomon, you know, and right now we're in the process to where the Lord is gathering the nation again, starting with this word, with the elect being gathered.
Right. This is what you were going to earlier about the house of David. This is like it says in Amos 9:11, the house of David being raised back up as old. Because, like you said, the nation of Israel, we were one nation all the way up until King Solomon, and then when King Solomon died and passed the kingdom to his two sons, Jeroboam and Rehoboam, that's when the kingdom of Israel split into the northern and the southern kingdom. So what we're doing now through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua is bringing the two kingdoms back together so that we can become one nation again. Because in the kingdom, it's not going to be northern kingdom and southern kingdom. We're going to be the nation of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You saying something else, bro?
Lie.
So finish it out. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, will thou not show us what thou meanest by these? It says, say unto them, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand.
Right. So it's the Lord that is essentially, gathering or putting us together as a people, and He's using, the word to do it. That's the engine. That's the bait to do it. The elect is being gathered, is being put together. By way of this truth.
Right, because Joseph, brother, I don't know what the brother was saying on the comment board. Joseph from Egypt is Simeon. Joseph speaking about the Ephraim, because Ephraim is the head of the northern kingdom, and Judah is the head of the southern kingdom. So the Lord is bringing both of them back together. All right, so that, like I said before, we're one nation.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, and the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand before thine eyes, and say unto them, thus saith the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land.
Mm-hmm. Cause pretty much, that land is talking about what is known as the Fertile Crescent. What scholars call the Fertile Crescent. That's the best land on the planet Earth. The Lord essentially going to put us back into that land. Pursuant to Isaiah the 62nd chapter.
That's right. And I will make them one nation into the hand, like into the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king of them all, and
Mm-hmm.
they shall no more be two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all.
Right. Because essentially it says, and I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel. How the Lord, is gathering us as a nation. And it says, and one king shall be king to them, our Lord Yahweh Shai, that's going to be our king. Under Yahweh Shai is going to be King David. And it says, and there shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms anymore at all. So pretty much, what essentially divides the nation will be the curses, in the kingdom. When we're placed back into our own land, essentially the curse is not going to be there no more. Scriptures say, awake, awake, put on thy strength, O Zion, put on thy beautiful garments, roughly paraphrasing. But it says, for henceforth, there shall no more come into thee the uncircumcised and the unclean. Essentially, in the kingdom, Jake is going to be perfect, and Jake ain't going to sin,
Right. I want to correct this brother on the comment board because he's got the wrong breakdown for who Joseph is. So I'm gonna read this real quick. This is Genesis 35:23. The sons of Leah, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon and Levi and Judah and Issachar and Zebulun. the sons of Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. So, brother, you're going off. Joseph is not Simeon. That's two different people.
Right.
All right, but that's pretty much. Unless you got something else.
Kai, could you get let me see. Yeah, Yeshai, you know where it's at? Where it talks about where he had crossed his hands and we blessed Manasseh and Ephraim.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
yeah, yeah. Let me see. Salakia.
You can get Genesis 48:1.
I got you. This is in that same chapter. Deuteronomy. It's like Genesis 48:20. That's what you was talking about.
Kai.
I'm gonna go up. I'm gonna go up the verse 18 just for context. It
Mm-hmm.
says Joseph, Genesis 48:18, and Joseph said unto his father, "Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head."
Right. So it said Joseph said unto his father, which his father would be Yaquab, Jacob. You know, which Yaquab goes into he supplants. It says, "Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn." He was referring to Manasseh.
Mhm. Put thy right hand upon his head, and his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and
Mm-hmm.
his seed shall become a multitude of nations. And
Mm-hmm.
he,
And because pretty much right here it says, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly, his younger brother shall be greater than he. You know, so it's pretty much going into Manasseh. You know, truthfully, he will be the oldest, but that blessing went to Ephraim. You know, because that's just how it played out in the spirit.
that's right, verse 20, and he blessed them that day, saying, In thee shall Israel bless, saying, Yahweh make thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh.
Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much why Manasseh's name goes into Manashah. Nasha means to forget. You know, Manashah is made to forget, you see, because the blessing went to Ephraim. But just, you know, in context, just wanted to get that precept for you, priest, because for the comment board, you know, Joseph had, you know, those are the two sons. It will be Ephraim and Manasseh.
Khan. And just one more, just to prove that there are two separate people going into the in the kingdom. Revelation chapter 7, verse 4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all tribes of the children of Israel. Of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. The tribes of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Issachar were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin sealed 12,000. So, just picking out all that together. Okay. Ephraim and Simeon are two different people.
Mm-hmm.
Brother, you going off, man. So it's like you starting to scoff now, brother. So just hold your peace, man. You're wrong, brother. Not the same people. But that's pretty much it, man. He ain't
Con.
gonna get it. He ain't gonna get it. But the
Right.
point being, for edification's sake, all right, they're two different people, man. If you got a problem with that, brother, then that's between you and the Lord. But you're wrong. All right, but y'all have anything else?
Law.
Live.
Time. So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. So we're gonna close it up right here. All right, we want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect. Until next time, we say Shalom.
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 Shalom.